Hello there, seventh graders. I hope you all had a great weekend. We are going to jump right on into our lesson today. We're going to be building off of what we learned on Friday about factors that influence growth and development, things like genetics or the environment. Okay? So just a quick glance at where we're going. Your objective today is that you will be able to research a trait and then justify using CER whether you think that trait is determined more by genetics or the environment. Okay, so that is where we are going. It's kind of including some things that we learned about last Friday and then combining it with more of what we're talking about today. So here we have two fish. These first couple of questions are just to get your brains going, to look at some real world things and to think about how we've talked about different things in the past and how they could apply right now. So here in this slide, we have two fish. They are the same goldfish genetically, but one you can see is huge, and then one is small in its little goldfish bowl. So what could be attributing to the fact here that their shape or their size is quite different, even though they are the same type of goldfish? And at this point, I would call on students or let them think and share as they wanted. Okay, good. So we could see that this fish's environment is very different from this fish's. These two fish have a very different amount of space that they are living in. Here we can see a pond, maybe even a lake. We can use those clues to know that this fish has a lot more space to grow than the goldfish who's confined to the goldfish bowl. Okay, next, these cornfields are growing the same genetically identical corn. So what could be the difference here? And again, I would have my students talk about this on their own or share their ideas. And then we would talk about the differences in water, how drought affects something, or nutrients. And then also, now identical twins have the same genetic code, but identical twins are not always, even though they are identical genetically, you can usually tell them apart. Like I can tell that these two older gentlemen are very similar, but they do have differences. I can tell that they are different human beings. So what is that all about? And then here, hopefully students would notice that maybe their lifestyle choices were different, maybe they had different diets, just differences that could have happened in their life. Okay, so now we have talked about a lot of our environmental factors, and these are in addition to some of the lifestyle factors that we talked about on Friday too. We know that food has an impact on the growth and development of organisms. So if we're thinking about humans, access to healthy foods, not only that there are grocery stores close to where somebody lives, but that they can also economically afford healthy foods, will have a positive impact on that growth and development of the family. Whereas junk food won't have as much of a positive effect. And this can be because people can live in a food desert where they don't have access to healthy food. Also, junk food is often more cheap. So families that are economically tight can only afford junk food, which could influence the growth and development of those kids and those families. Obviously, light is a factor, especially when we think about plants. If a seed is dropped in a place where it has access to good sunlight, it will likely grow more healthy than a plant or a seed that was dropped somewhere where there's a lot of darkness or a lot of shade. It doesn't have access to that good light. We've already talked about the fish and the cornfields. Things like space can have a big impact on an organism's development as well as water. So now after this conversation now and what we talked about last Friday, I would like for you to go to your breakout rooms and to discuss these 4 questions. You do have an assignment in your assignments tab that looks like this. So as a group, you'll go through and you'll talk about these 4 questions. And then when you get to part 2, just wait a moment. Okay, so I would have kids go, talk about these questions together, and then have a designated speaker to come back and share with the class. We go over the questions, get some student input, hopefully have a healthy discussion, and then we would move on. So as we can see, the bottom line, and many of you have already come to this conclusion, is that growth and development is a combination of inherited traits, lifestyle choices, and environmental exposure. We've learned how the study of epigenetics can actually, your environment can change your genetic code based on many different factors. We know that your lifestyle choices can have an impact on how you grow and develop. And then obviously those traits that are inherited have a big impact on you as a person as well. Okay. So now for our last activity, you'll be going back to your breakout groups, and you'll be using the tool of MOSA Mac to help you with this next part. So we've been working on CERs throughout the year. I've done some as examples. We've written CERs together. So what you're going to do today is you're going to write your CER with a group. So I'll kind of show you the end product and then go through how we're going to get there. Okay, so your question that you are answering today is this trait developed more through the organism's environment or their genetics? Okay, and we'll talk about how to pick that trait here in just a second. But then everybody individually, you will go through and answer the questions in the CER on your own. Everybody will write their own answer, but I'm encouraging you to definitely talk with your groups as you do this. So you'll make a claim. You're going to answer this question in a statement, and then you'll provide evidence supporting that claim. And then finally, with your reasoning, you'll make sure that you connect the evidence back to the claim. So now with your group, you will go to MOSA Mac. You can use this link. And then you're going to pick one of these studies. So you can learn more about strawberries. There's some research on corn, height, twins, body fat, and brain development. So you and your group, you can kind of flip through and see which one you'd like to do. But then what you'll do, and I'll use this strawberry one as an example, is you'll read about this study. This one was the trait that they explored was the weight of a strawberry. And they explored the different types of fertilizer that they used on these strawberries. And then they graphed their results here. Okay. So what I would do with my group is I would talk about this study. For MOSA Mac, you don't have to enter your data here, your information here, but you can read the questions and talk about it with your group. If you need any more information, they have a link at the bottom where you can get some more data. So you and your group will take the time to read and understand the study and the trait that you looked at, that you chose, and then you'll complete the CER. And again, everybody does their CER, but you have your group to support you and to talk about it. Okay, and then when you're done, you'll turn this in through your assignments, and we will meet again live on Wednesday. So I hope you all have an awesome day, and I will talk to you later. Bye, everyone. Okay, so that was a quick run through with what I would do with students. I wanted to quickly address some of these questions here. So the I do, we do, you do, we're using the content that we're learning today to practice the skills. So we've been working on CERs for quite a long time. I've done examples just on my own. I've had students do them in groups before. I've given specific feedback. And then also they've done them on their own. But today we're going to go back to that structured support of doing it with a group. Okay. And then also for assistive technology, the MOSA Mac has a feature where it can be read out loud to the students, so that can be a support, and then as well as their peers. So any student that just needs a little extra support has a group to lean on here. So all students can engage because we've all written CERs together. And they also, again, like I just said, they're using their group as a helpful part here. I don't have any students that can't type. So I wouldn't count off for spelling in a science class or things like that. I would make sure every student knows that I will be grading them on their content. Okay. And so how I'm going to ensure that all students are engaging appropriately is I pop into their groups. Teams lets me just join groups. And so I'll pop in, just kind of listen, tell them I'm listening, and if they have questions, answer any questions, but mostly I'm there to observe. And then these are lessons I know that all the students have access to the technology. They've been using the technology for a couple months now, so I feel confident that they can engage in this lesson. Okay. So as the formative assessment, the CER is still formative, even though they will get a grade on it. It does give me knowledge to help me plan lessons in the future. And after I assign a CER, I almost always go back and do a small group after it. Okay. And then any student with an IEP or a 504, I definitely meet those needs for the plan. Any English learners, before this lesson, we've already introduced vocabulary and talked about these new words, so they have some familiarity with the vocabulary. All right, I think that's all I have. Thank you very much. Bye.